Mr. Clerk, will you please read the roll call?
Chairman McKinnon.
Here.
Counselor Matusky. Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor Simonelli.
Yeah.
And I see we have President Napolitano.
Here.
You have 3 members of the board present and the president present.
Thank you.
4
Please,
members.
please stand, salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have one regret, that is Councilman Matusky will not be in attendance due to having a prior commitment.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion that we approve City Clerk Cornelio as our clerk of committees this evening for this meeting?
Motion made and seconded to approve Sergio Cornelio as our clerk of committees this evening. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we take item number 2 off of the calendar, please.
Motion made and seconded to have item number 2 be read on the calendar. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read item number 2.
Item number 2, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution offered by Councilor Michael J. McLaughlin to invite the mayor and chief financial officer to discuss how much money applied to the tax rate from wind mitigation monies. The invited sponsors are the mayor and Mr. Demas, the CFO.
Mr. Chairman, may we invite up our invited guest, please?
Could we have the mayor and Mr. Demas before us? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. If you could just please state your names and titles, please, for the record.
Carlo Di Maria, Mayor.
Thank you for appearing tonight, sir.
Eric Demas, CFO.
Thank you, sir, for appearing. Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a list of questions, so what I would like to do is just start the conversation off and then yield the floor to my colleagues if they want to jump in, then we can kind of go back. First, I want to thank the mayor and Eric Demas for both appearing this evening. I do have some questions regarding the monies that have been put towards the tax rate. I know that we can discuss this and kind of get some answers, but how much money have, over the past 3 years, we've been putting money towards the tax rate for 3 years, or 2 years, and then this year will be the 3rd year, correct? So 2 years.
No, I think we've been doing it actually for the last 11 years, as I've been there, putting money toward the tax rate. Not win money, of course, but we've been putting money, I think, for at least all 11 years.
But for the win money, it's been 2 years, correct, Mr. Mayor? It's been,
2 years or 1?
It's the 2 years.
It's been 2 years.
and this coming year will be the 3rd year, will be the 3rd year payment plan, correct?
Well, this current year we'll get the last this May,
Yes.
April, May, will be the last $12.5 million of the $30 million, I don't know how.
Upfront payment.
Upfront payment.
Okay. So the first year, do we know how much money was put, so I'm looking for the first year breakdown, the second year breakdown of how much we put towards the tax.
So last year, we put the whole $12.5 million, and the year before,
8.
I believe it was 5 from the win money and 3 million from free cash or something.
It's total
like that.
8, I
I
believe.
think total, what,
First
8
year.
million.
So, that's great. We put 12.5 million towards the tax rate this year, because I know there was some clarification that Council Capone and I had on, if we hadn't put the 12.5, Eric, you and I have discussed this, Mayor, you and I have discussed, if we hadn't put the 12.5 million up front, would we have been over Proposition 2.5? Was the 12.5 actually added as a lump sum to the tax rate, or did some have to come off of the 12.5 to cover the operational budget or any other line items before we would have had a Proposition 2.5?
Yeah, so we knew we were going to propose 12.5 million, because I think actually there was a lot of support prior to us doing it from all of you. So I did we know that the budget was 4 million over? We did, but that's why we proposed the 12.5 million to offset it.
So it was for 4 million over. So if we
didn't transfer the 12.5 million, we would have had to cut 4 more million.
Would have had to cut 4
And we would have been,
and you would have, I'm sure.
we would have had to do it, yeah.
I'm only looking for what next year's plan realistically is, and I'm just trying to find a trend here
Yeah.
that's trickling the past 2 years and seeing, because as you just said, Mr. Mayor, in the next 30 to 60 days, the wind money is going to come into the city of $12.5 million.
Right.
And we may decide at that point that maybe 12.5 is not the best use of that money going forward. But if we knew that, I'll be honest, I didn't know previously that putting the 12.5 was going to cover a $4 million expenditure on the budget. If I had known that, I would have still supported it, but it would have maybe made my decision a different outcome.
Sure.
So that's why I'm just looking to see where we go for next year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I mean,
Counsel, are you looking for a projection for next year?
I kind of am trying to show a trend of where we've come over the past 2 years with the monies that have come in from WIN, and then to kind of project. And we can leave this into committee. I'm okay with leaving it in committee. Just trying to see where we have been for 2 years and where we're going to go for the third
If
year.
we can
because-
answer it now, we'll answer it now. I mean,
yeah, no, yeah, so we actually got a request from the school department just recently they asked us, I think it was 8 million, if we could do 8 million above net school spending next year. So if we were to take the 8 million out of the 12.5 million from WIN, we would only have $4.5 million left. That would leave us with an $8 million deficit in the, let's say, that we'd have to increase our taxes for, right? Because if we have if we offset the budget by $12.5 million last year.
Yep.
Right? And you don't offset it by $12.5 million this
Or
year.
additional, right.
You have now increased the demand on the taxpayer. We don't have the stabilization free cash money that we have this year. We just, we use most of it to offset the increases in the school budget. So, we're doing a lot of thinking right now. We were projected to bring on some more police and fire and other positions in other departments. We're not going to be doing that. Looking hopefully, there's no early retirement incentives that we could offer employees, but I will be having a conversation with some employees and seeing if there's an ability maybe for them to take their retirement, maybe come back on a part-time basis. We might slow down some of our capital improvements. And we're just talking fiscal year 19.
You're right, because they're right.
Because once 20,
to my next point was when we get to 2020, it's
20,
a whole
yeah.
very different ballgame.
It is. You have the additional $30 million coming from, the resort, and then a lot of new growth will come on too. We got a lot, got some good news today for another issue that I'd like to talk to you guys separately, maybe in committee another time. I just don't think it's right to do it here. And we still have the ongoing issues with the power plant, and that's some good conversation. I know that Mintz is coming in to talk to you all about that. We got some decent news there and some positive news to come. We always said, even when Rich Risque was here, 2019 was always going to be our toughest year prior to Eric coming here. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does answer some of my questions.
Yeah, so we're going to do a real careful analysis on what the impact is going to be on taxpayers.
You hit the nail on the head to a point, because if you put 12.5 last year and we don't have 12.5 to put next year,
You have a deficit.
We have a deficit, and taxes are going to go, unfortunately, through the roof.
Right.
And to be honest, the more money that we continue to bring in through WIN Resorts, people think it's great. The $30 million sounds wonderful. State allocations are going to start to become smaller. They're going to start funding our accounts smaller because we're able to pay further for our own expenditures. So it's a teeter-totter type of game that
Yeah.
you have to play with to really try to figure out financing right now, because the more we get in, sounds great, the better we're going to be financially, the more we're going to have to pay out on our end to be able to cover what the state isn't going to fund, whether it's Chapter 70, Chapter 90, a whole host of other line items. That teeter-totter game is going to kind of come into play over the next year.
Yeah, Eric could probably answer that a little better, but it's not really more WIN. It's more of our ability to pay.
Right.
So the state looks at our ability to become less reliant on like almost like the schools, you know, they got all their schools to check, you know, level 1 and level 2, so then they get cut back on grants, and so you're doing a good job, and then
And then you're gonna get whacked.
they whack
So
you,
they
you
cut
know?
you.
Kind of the same thing here, you know, we're doing a very good job on our finances, and then the state looks at that and our ability to pay, and it's not even with the, you know, it's not even more about winning. I think you can, if you want to take it from there. We had that conversation today, I think, actually. You had said, we had talked about how we may lose some state funding, but wasn't really a concern, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. So we haven't yet been able to determine what the actual impact is going to be from a state reduction in aid. You know, we're two state fiscal budgets away from that, so a lot can happen and a lot can change. However, there are a lot of moving parts. So as the mayor indicated, one of the positive things is, you know, as the state goes through their own fiscal challenges, the city being less reliant on them, we're less reliant, we have more of our financial control within our own hands. But in addition to that, it's not just Wynn Resorts or the resort complex. You know, so when that happens, we will see some type of allocation adjustment in our state aid. However, all of the other indirect ancillary things that are happening in relation to and because of, you know, as the city becomes stronger, you know, more hotels, more restaurants, more commercial activity, will also help us lessen the potential burden of any impact on any reductions in state aid.
No, and I agree, there is a mix, give and take type of formula there. Problem is, we've put so much towards the tax at this point, and now we're sort of trying to balance it off. But at some point, that number is not going to be able to maintain. We're not going to be able to maintain it at that level because there's only so much money in the pot, if you will. There's only so many places that can be divided up. So that's why I'm looking to just see where the future goes on the win monies that we've received or that
Sure.
we're going to receive.
And a sub-question to that would be that we're projecting this to happen with the state reduction, as well as we're preparing for it as well, correct? By the AAA bondings that we have, all that stuff there, that's gonna help us offset any type of thing, plus whatever's coming off of like the schools and stuff like that, that should offset, correct?
Absolutely. And what I wanted to offer, and it actually circles back
Sure.
to Councilor McLaughlin's original question, or piece that he was trying to hit upon, is that at the beginning of the budget process, there are two things that we talk about before we even really get into the detail of the budget and the line items. And one is the mayor's overall budget presentation to city council to start off the process with the school committee present as well. Included in that is the 5-year financial forecast that we update and is a rolling document, a living document, if you will, on an annual basis. And within that 5-year financial forecast, not only are we talking about all of the proposed budgetary expenditures, but the funding sources as well. So within that document, you can go back 2 years and you can see how the original $5 million coming in from Wynn was to be used to help offset, you know, our growing pains, if you will, as we get closer to opening. Last year, we had included the 12.5 as part of that process. And literally everything that the mayor had projected as part of that 5-year financial forecast, should that budget have passed, actually came to fruition. It was when we had actually projected what, given everything, if the city council passed the budget as it was presented, which they did, projected exactly where our excess levy capacity would be and where we were projecting next year, certainly what Councilman McLaughlin's talking about, as well as the year after, you know, fiscal 20 upon opening, and then 20 and 21. And we're in the process of updating that now as we're trying to finalize and put our budget together. Additional information is continuing to come in, and we're getting close to be able to put together a whole package. But you're going to see exactly in that 5-year financial forecast exactly what you're asking.
Great. And I have just a few more questions, and I can yield the floor to my colleagues if they want, if you want me to continue, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few questions left.
I think, Eric, you should probably hear something that happened today, and I'll let Eric tell you what happened today. It's good news.
I don't want, if you don't feel comfortable telling us.
No, it's okay. You can tell them about the new growth and
If
stuff.
it's good news, it's great news.
Yeah.
It is good news. So one of your questions were we close to the 2.5? And from a procedural standpoint, we would not have been, given the fact that city council was so supportive of what the mayor had presented. You know, we could have voted or had you guys vote prior to actually voting on the budget, the use of the 12.5, and then it wouldn't have been an issue, which is why the Department of Revenue had no issue with anything that the city had done. However, one of the things that needs to happen underneath this community host agreement is that the city needs to enter into an agreement, it's called the 121A agreement, with the resort. Before we can actually enter into that agreement, there are a few legal hurdles, and I'm not going to bore you with the details that Wynn has to do as far as creating an LLC and just making sure that they're compliant with the gaming laws. And they are, and we have a very strong relationship with them when we're working together. But given the fact that the 121A hadn't actually been executed yet, because there are certain steps that Wynn Resorts needs to take, I saw an opportunity, saw a window, and working with BJ Devereaux and Pam Davis and having discussions with the mayor, saying, okay, we're not actually there with the 121A yet. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but let's try to use this to our advantage. Let's try to make sure we're not missing any opportunities. So the thought was that because they hadn't entered into one as of 1/1/18, there was a tremendous amount of activity that had happened on the site. We had talked with Wynn Resorts. We had talked with our consultants that are tracking 4-Leaf, the progress of construction, and the building was approximately 45% completed as of 1/1/18. So I said, okay, how are we going to handle this complying with the law, and how can we make sure that the city best benefits from the situation that we were in? And as such, because Wynn hadn't actually executed that 121A, BJ Devereaux and myself, as well as some members from KP Law, we had a roundtable discussion with all of the decision makers at the Department of Revenue as to how we're going to go through and complete and report our recap and identify growth and what we're going to do. And basically what we're going to be able to do is capture about $600 million in value from the activity that had happened at the casino site through 1/1/18. And what that means is that even though we're not necessarily talking about raising a tax levy up to that amount, what it does is it fits in with the mayor's long-term goals of trying to strengthen the city from a financial perspective. The mayor's goal, which I'm working with him diligently on, is to at some point get the city to a AAA rating, significantly lower our bonding costs, what have you, and bring the city of Everett to the very highest level that any municipality or government agency can be, such as the United States of America. Our debt is actually AAA rated. It's the highest that you can get. One of those things, one of those important factors to help us get to that step would be to have a significant amount of excess levy capacity. And so given this one-time shot, because the 121A hadn't been actually executed, we're going to be able to capture all of that growth. And so what that's going to show to our bond rating agencies is that, you know, underneath the mayor's leadership, we have this foresight, and we're looking long-term with this. We're not just looking to the start opening date. We're looking at the best way to manage the city's finances. And I'm very happy to say that with Chief Legal Counsel, Deputy Director of the Department of Revenue, their head of BLS, Local Services, they all collectively got together and they understood and said, absolutely, what you are proposing to do is in the best interest of the city, and they're going to sign off on it. It's a unique situation. It's something that nobody had actually planned on, and it's only because we had this little timing window that we recognized this opportunity. And the state was extremely supportive. We wanted to make sure that anything we were going to be doing, anything that the mayor was going to be presenting to city council as far as future financial forecasts, that we had our I's dotted, T's crossed, and that we were going to have the blessing from the state, and we received that today. Very positive news for the city.
Let me congratulate both of you, because I think that is tremendous, and I think it's really relief, to be honest, and I think it just shows more of your good, hard work, Eric, and what you're doing, and the mayor allows you to do every day, and you're always looking forward to the future of our community under the mayor's direction. And that's why I wanted to just start this discussion tonight. I knew it was going to be a friendly discussion. It wasn't you guys versus the city council. We've been working together as a team. It's been one group. And that's why I think it was important to just kind of come in to discuss where we were and where we were going in the future. One question that I have that you might be able to answer this. A lot of times you hear, you put $12.5 million towards the tax rate, how is my tax bill still going up? How did I get an increase of $800 this year or $600 this year? You hear it, I'm sure, daily, as we all do. What do you attest that to, or how can you?
One is that the residential property values keep rising, and commercial values, unfortunately, are not. Kind of stuck, right? Even though Wynn is paying, let's call it $1 million an acre, but it's more for residential properties. It's not really businesses that are being sold. So, as we all know, your taxes have gone up, but your value of your property has also gone up, right? That's great if you're looking to sell. That's great if you're looking to put a home equity loan out or do some work on your property or pay a college loan or whatever. But if you're just living there and not looking to do any of that, it's terrible, right? You're paying more taxes. So that's the main reason. Remember, years ago, the commercial tax rate was out of sight, and residents were like, I think maybe even 8 years ago, where it was the opposite. The commercial tax rate was at 44. Now it's 32?
34.
34?
So it's just been a shift in
There's been a
formula.
shift, So,
Commercial, residential.
yeah, that will shift back again, like it always does. And, but we also, as we, as the wind comes online and other hotels that we know are going to come online and other developments come online, like the GE Parkland and some new growth, that will help, this even stuff that's happening in the square. So, I mean, all new growth helps, but, at the end of the day, you got to stop spending too. I mean, even when you look at simple things as removing snow, right? Because you saw that this year I didn't remove any snow, right? Last year or the year before, we spent lots of money removing snow.
But that is the one line item that you can overspend, correct? In our city, and there's a bottomless number on snow.
No, that's not true. I thought that was true. That's what I asked you, but you said that was a special dispensation that DOR gave us the year we overspent the snow budget. They gave us 3 years to raise it on the tax recap sheets. That is no longer the deal?
Well, from a deficit spending, the councilor is correct that we are legally allowed to overspend our snow and ice appropriation.
Right, but you have to raise it
However,
the
you
year
have to
after.
raise it that very next year, so you're paying
So it's
it
no
well.
longer
So
3
it's-
years, right, so you have to raise it the next year, so it doesn't really do you any good.
Yeah, it doesn't help you that much.
No, that's just one
No,
thing.
absolutely, no.
But,
Put it this way, too, gentlemen, if we didn't do the 3-year projection that we did, the tax rate would be through the roof. So basically, it's like a streamline right now, so.
a lot of good things happen, too. There's
Yeah.
stuff happening on the power plant that I'd rather talk in
This-
executive session about,
Yeah,
that
we
I have
have
a,
There's a
some
lot
good
of,
stuff.
there's a lot of
good stuff
activity
happening.
going on. so.
And you know what, but who here wants to stop doing parks over? Who here wants to stop doing streets and sidewalks over here, Who here doesn't, who doesn't want to change the lights to the enhanced lights? Who doesn't want to build up the bike paths that connect it to the T station? Who doesn't want to connect the rapid bus line to Sullivan Station? All that stuff, but it makes our community a better place, safer place, and more desirable place to live.
I couldn't agree more.
And by making it a more desirable place to live,
It costs money. You have to.
then you also got to worry about people being able to afford to live here. So that's another thing that's on my head. I want to make it a better place, but I still don't want to lose all of the people that are living here and struggling to live here, right? And that's why
So-
we're doing so many different things.
Mayor, the school department asked for $8 million increase in.
Yeah, they, it was very, I think it was a very, I wasn't in the meeting, Eric and Kevin and, I think Dr. Easy was in the meeting, I think it was the superintendent, and then the 2 assistant superintendents. They just asked, what can we do next year?
And that's okay. My only question on that was, and I don't even want to discuss that because it's premature,
Right.
absolutely. and-
Because we
is
got
what
the
did
other
we
two,
do?
we have, council, we have other two on the
Yep,
school, so
absolutely.
we could bring.
What did we
probably
fund them at? this year. Just-
Above net
ju-
school spending?
Yeah, just to say, is it a significant increase for the 8 million if we were to do it next year? Or are the numbers in
I
relation?
think we, total was 10.5 above? Right.
I'd have to look at it, but.
Or 9 maybe,
I think we're
8.
probably about, it's gonna be closer to, when I look at the final net school spending, and we look at the chargebacks, it'll probably be 6.5 to 7 above net school spending.
Right, because chargebacks increased $1 million.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
And not to say that we shouldn't, because we're so, we may need to help the schools and make sure that they get those funds that they need to, make sure that, keep classroom sizes at a certain level. But we're gonna work together. This is gonna be a great budget process between the schools, city, all of us.
Should be great.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Let's make Everett great again.
Yeah, exactly. Councilman Simonelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you for Councilman Simonelli. This may be redundant, but I'm just going to say what's written. What will happen if Wynn Corporation, with the problems they're having, is this arrangement still going forward? If not, will tax rate go up even more?
It's a great question that the councilman makes, I mean, I fear, I always, myself, it's being, it's, there's a lot going on. I mean, if you keep up with the articles in the Wall Street Journal, like most of us do, there's lots of questions regarding other people that are on the board there, and if other people don't want, don't resign. The Gaming Commission has the authority to pull the license, but, if they find other people not to be suitable, Mr. Nguyen has stepped down, he's no longer the chairman, he has to get under a certain percentage of his stocks, he's, right now, being a 10, 11% owner, 12% owner, he still has a say in the company. There are conversations regarding what's going on with that, things that are happening there. That's not what they want to do. That's not what the state wants to do. The state and everybody else, and of course us, want to see it open. It's, no one can afford for this not to open. I hope it stays in the existing corporation. We got to change the names and all that stuff. That's, that you'll see, I think you'll see some movement on that. But the conversations I have on a daily basis with the team here in Boston, with Bob DeSalvio and Chris Gordon, Jackie Crum and John Taco, and it's full steam ahead. I mean, they're continuously buying properties, continuously looking to, develop more hotel space, looking to create, there's some conversations regarding a party I spoke about earlier, about doing something at that location too. So they're going full steam ahead. They're spending $1 million a day, I think it is. Construction is 1,000 men and women working on that site. A lot of good things have happened already. I just don't foresee it sitting idle and empty, but that keeps me up at night too. You never know, but I don't think that will happen. So good question. I'm hoping that, June 2019, facilities open. The name, I don't know. Hopefully it's still the same corporation.
We'll be able to go down there and actually see a show or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, did that answer your question, councilors?
You're welcome.
Councilman McLaughlin?
One last question is, in the host community agreement that we signed in, I believe, 2012, I thought some language in there that the 3 years leading up to the opening of the casino, the monies were to be allocated for infrastructure improvement.
Right.
And so forth, not in lieu of taxes or to go towards
Right.
taxes.
So we're using that money to offset our debt increases.
So that, okay.
Covered, yeah.
Okay, no, and that's fine. The only other thing I'd tell you, on Council Simonelli's point is a great point, but from what I understand from the Mass Game Commission, even if the company were to sell or something were to happen, they still have to honor the host community agreement that is in place with our community. The new buyer still has to honor the host community agreement that is in place.
Well, that'd be an opportunity.
Wouldn't that be a new agreement?
From what I understand from some people that were involved in creating the legislation in 2011, it still has to be on the.
Well, it wouldn't be less.
That was signed. It would not be less, you're right about
Could be
that.
movement for up, going up a little bit more.
But,
Councilman Napolitano, did you have a question?
Thank you.
Are you all
I just
set?
wanted to get some clarification. So again, I understand the
That was it.
agreement said that certain monies were supposed to be spent for infrastructure and so forth. I know we've been putting money toward the tax rate, But that hasn't stopped you from still addressing those infrastructure concerns that were part of the host agreement, correct? And then isn't this one of the reasons why we're still spending money the way we are?
Well, I'm sorry, I repeat that. I
Sure.
apologize.
One more
apologize.
time.
I was thinking what Mike said, when I said, I'm saying I probably shouldn't have said that or any of that stuff, but the thing here, we need to remember, in all seriousness, that, you know, that facility will be built and will be open. No question. It's in the best interest of the state, the city, and all.
And I think the state understands
Right.
that if they were to change their
Right.
plans on that, it would be financially devastating to this community at a level that would be beyond anything that
Right,
you can
right,
imagine.
exactly.
We're too far into this.
Right. We didn't negotiate an agreement with any other company. That's the company we negotiated with because of what they promised to do, not just at that one location, what they promised to do for the entire city. It was a corporate mindset, not just one person. It was an entire corporate mindset. That they weren't looking to build one facility to just reap the benefits of gaming revenues. It was to create a district, let's say, of acres and acres to create like this, you know, place where lots of hotel rooms, lots of restaurants, lots of business activity that would generate not just 30 million, but my goal someday to see something that generated, you know, north of 50, 60 million dollars, right? And that's what the Gaming Commission needs to understand, and I will make that, you know, people have asked, where have I been on this? It's no time for me to speak on this, but eventually there will be a time when the Mass Gaming Commission does take this at a formal session that we will speak. But
Sure. I mean, I'll reiterate the question, and it was in response to the discussion about that when the host agreement was signed, that monies that were supposed to be coming to the city were supposed to be applied to certain infrastructure.
right,
Well, granted that we've applied money to the tax rate and to some other things with it, but we're still addressing those infrastructure commitments, correct?
oh yeah, right,
That's
right.
what I was
Right.
trying, that's what I wanted you to be able to confirm.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I see it, the public doesn't see it. And, you know, so the thing is that even though we've taken money that's been coming to us from WIN and we've applied against the tax rate,
Right.
it doesn't mean that we're still not addressing the infrastructure concerns that were part of this host agreement.
we're offsetting long-term and short-term debt in the
That's-
budget.
that's-
That's basically what we're doing.
Okay, that's what I was getting
Right.
you to.
Thank you.
pretty much say, because it isn't just a question of that we're ignoring that, and we don't want the public to get the wrong idea that we're not addressing those concerns. We are. But when we talk about monies that are being applied to the tax rate, you know, it's still part of the overall spending of the city. So we're still applying money to the tax rate, we're still addressing these infrastructure concerns, and we're still moving forward.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Thank
for
you.
the public.
All set, Counsel?
All set.
All right. Do we have any other questions? One more. Councilman Simonelli?
No.
All set? Okay. Your motion on this? Mike?
Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we leave this into committee until the first meeting in June. That way, the monies will come in from WIN, and the new monies will come in from WIN, and we can come back and revisit next year's plan. I think we've really done a great job tonight, and thank the mayor and Eric Demus for recapping how we've got to this point.
Sure.
And talking about next year's phase is the next step. And so I'd leave this in committee and make a motion to leave this in committee until the first meeting in June, and then we can move it at that point.
Motion made and
Second motion.
seconded to keep this in committee until the first meeting in June with a report back. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Why don't we take three? Make a motion? Someone? Mike? Take three.
Can we
because-
take item number 1, because one of the steps in item number 1 refers to item number 3.
Okay.
So make a motion that we take item number 1 off the calendar, please.
Motion made and seconded to take item number 1 off the calendar. Please read that, clerk.
Item number 1, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution offered by Councilor Michael J. McLaughlin to invite the mayor and the chief financial officer to explain the steps proposed for the school department going forward. Invited Mayor DeMarian, CFO Demus.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both again for being here this evening. As we know, we had a meeting here a few weeks ago, and the administration laid out several steps that were going to be taken to try to address the expenditures of the school department. There were 4 steps that were laid out that evening. I'd like to just briefly touch on the 4 steps if possible.
Sure.
And just kind of get an update of where we are on all of them.
All right.
I think a lot of them made sense, and I think a lot of them were good. I have many questions, and again, I'll yield the floor to my colleagues. If you don't comfortable answering a question tonight, it's okay. I didn't give 5-day notice, so you don't have to answer anything that's before
It's
me, or before you this evening. But I'm just kind of trying to get an overview of where we went from that meeting to where we are tonight.
Okay.
If you want, I can talk about the 4 items, or if you know them off the top of your head, you can, Mayor and Mr. Demus.
Yeah, whatever you would like to do.
So item number 1 is out-of-state travel.
Right.
The out-of-state travel,
So I know the superintendent said something like that was a low blow or a shot taken at them. That was not to eliminate, not to disallow the kids to partake in, if the STEM kids were going to New York or if the high school band was going to DC. That was more in line, that's more in line for the administrators or that were going to do a conference or, just, that would be spending not needed, right? Not needing. So that was taken out of context. Maybe I should have spelt that out better. But that was purely for, and I know the superintendent made a comment that he's never gone on, or they don't go on those meetings. But that was just to ensure that no one would go on, not to prevent the band or the STEM from going on. So
no, absolutely. My first question was, why did we choose that as one of the steps versus maybe 10 other things that we could have gone after, not after, but we could have discussed and maybe tried to slow down spending on? Why did we choose to go after? Not again. I don't want to use the word
that's something
after, I
normally
apologize.
you would prevent from happening. You would prevent anyone from leaving the city and taking a trip to a conference. That's just a normal thing you would stop from happening, right? Just like, we weren't saying we were going to stop, we were going to, or even you could have presented like a hiring freeze. But sometimes you do those, you had someone who left, and then now you're unable to replace that person. So you really can't propose something like that. That was just something
And that was what I was going to ask, was versus a hiring freeze or
Right.
something to that effect. There was
Sometimes
other things.
hiring freezes don't work good,
Sure.
because, you say something like that, then people are unable to fill a position that needs to be filled, that could,
Be detrimental.
be detrimental to
or-
the organization.
Do we see a line item each year spent for out-of-state travel for the school department beyond children going to Washington DC or going to, I know the superintendent laid out a letter tonight in front of us, but to other activities that they represent our community and state? Do we see a overcurrent expenditure for out-of-state travel for administration or anybody really from the school department, not just administration, but anybody? Do those conferences happen? Do they travel outside of the city yearly?
Eric, do you know of, do you see that broken down as a line item?
Well, it would depend on how it was budgeted and which department budgeted. So, for example,
And is microphone working? Is it on?
I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
it would depend upon, if it was professional development. So if somebody was going to a professional development course that is outside of the state and they were charging it to professional development, you wouldn't necessarily see a specific line item saying out-of-state travel. You would see it charged to a professional development. So it would really depend on what the purpose of the travel would be.
But they would, and I might be totally wrong, and I apologize if I am, but I am off. Do they submit the invoice when they come back? If they're going to New York for a conference, do they submit an invoice back to the city saying, I spent X amount of dollars at such and such hotel, or I spent X amount of dollars on travel, air flight, or, meals, or whatever? Is that how that's out of professional development? Is that how that is broken down?
Every single expenditure that is paid by the city is supported with adequate documentation, whether it be a specific invoice from a hotel or if somebody paid on their own personal credit card, we would want to see a copy of the receipt that they received from the hotel. We would want to see a copy of the credit card statement, certainly personal information.
Do you see that?
We do. We get every single piece. We
So
require
if
it.
someone from the school department goes on a trip, you see all those factors?
Everything. We would require it before we paid anything out. We
Yeah.
make sure that every.
So it's not just a warrant that you present
It's
to me?
not just the
Right,
warrant.
they're not
We
just-
require
So,
every single document to support every charge.
Okay.
Counselor, on that, that's more like budgetary type, so that would be in a budgetary type style budget for that post, like, say, executive travel somewhere or something to that would go into what account that they would utilize? It would be account that they would have specific out of our budget to utilize that, correct?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
So that's more on like budgetary
Which is fine. I'm
lines.
gonna ask two questions that I don't expect an answer for, but maybe you guys, the administration could help gather the information, which is, what have we spent this year out of, if there is any invoices or any documentation this year, and what over the past 3 years, say, or two, I don't care how long you go back, but just to show a period of past, of any invoices that have been submitted for
And I
out-of-state
think,
travel.
also
And I
on the
wouldn't expect you guys to know this.
Counselor, also on the resolution, it was saying steps proposed for the school department going forward. So that's what we're looking at now. But that question, latitude, so if you can answer it if you can't.
It's really not something you can answer. It's something of more of gathering of information later on, outside of this meeting, and we can all have a discussion about it later on. But I'd just like to see the trend over a couple of years.
I think Councilman McKinnon actually, it was, if any were proposed to go.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or in the future that, I think that's, I don't know, have the answer to that question. I mean, if Eric does.
To come up with an exact number would be an extremely challenging task, to identify all of those expenditures. What I would actually recommend is that we are very close to starting off our budget process, of which that, I think, would be an appropriate question for each department as they submit their budget. Because again, every department is going to be a little bit different based upon how their travel or planned travel would have been budgeted. Because again, how the planning office does it or how the mayor's office does it is going to be different than how the school does it. And how the school does it for athletics versus how the school does it for professional development. We can certainly provide you with all of that information, but it would take a significant amount of time. I think we can better get the
I don't think
answers.
it's a lot of money, but at the end of the day, if it's 60,000, that's a teacher, right?
No, and I agree.
You know,
Absolutely.
so,
And
it's
that's
just-
okay. We don't have to
were
go
just
down.
trying to take steps to ensure that all personnel was employed until the fiscal year was over.
Okay, so now
That
we've
was
changed somewhat of direction, because we've now allowed the out-of-state expenditure to occur, because we have.
No,
some-
I was always under the impression that giving them the money, that it was fulfilling their needs for their school year. The school department chose to take that line in my 4-point or 3-point, plan to say that the mayor wasn't allowing the kids to go to the band or STEM. I got wind of that, which I didn't appreciate, because that's not how I operate. So we had a conversation with Mr. Obremski in the schools, and we said, what does it take for you to fulfill the needs, the educational requirements that you have promised to all children and their families?
For this year.
And I think the number was $500,000, and that's why you see on the calendar.
That's our next piece.
That's why you see on the calendar this evening. I'm sure it doesn't cost $500,000 to go to Washington D.C. in the band, and I'm sure it doesn't cost the STEM team, another, whatever. I'm sure those two items do not cost $500,000.
I think there's three, Mr. Mayor.
To STEM.
Why don't we save
But
that for
that's-
the next piece?
Yep,
Counsel?
absolutely.
Right.
And then, just whether or not there was any organizations affected by that decision from 3 weeks ago till today.
What decision?
Not to have any out-of-state.
Out-of-state travel, you keep harping on it. Out-of-state travel was meant for no administrators.
I agree.
Or a teacher or whomever who were thinking about going out of state to do some sort of
Professional,
bettering
yeah.
themselves, professional development. That was supposed to be we didn't want to spend any of our city taxpayers' dollars to fulfill those needs.
And I agree with you.
All right.
I just wanted to know if there was anything that was stopped, if there was anything stopped for out-of-state travel.
You would have
from-
to ask the
from
auditor or
3
the
weeks ago
superintendent,
to tonight when we're
or,
approving-
yeah.
Hopefully approving.
I
this.
doubt there was, I doubt there was any scheduled.
That was all. I just
yeah,
wanted to know if there was
oh.
anything scheduled or.
None that I'm aware of. Nothing was put on hold. My office certainly didn't stop anything.
But it was an opportunity, it was taken to say that the mayor was going to stop the kids from going on these pre-planned trips.
And that wasn't the case.
That, as you know,
Right.
we gave the schools an additional amount of funds to make sure that all their programming needs that they had wanted to do this year, was met. And that's why we won't see this happen again. And that's why we will work together diligently to get a budget before the city council that's, that's a true budget, we'll call it, right? It will be a true budget, and that any employee. True transparent budget, that any employee who would be working for the city of Everett, in which department, be the schools, if they're offered a position, they will, their funds will be there for that position, and of course, we get the additional kids and the special needs kids, and we're gonna make sure we're gonna look over the course of the 3-year, 5-year together, and come up with a number that we perceive to have in reserves to make sure that those needs are satisfied also. Good thing about charter schools, that's it, no more, can't go any higher. We met our requirement, the max amount, so that can't go up any longer, There won't be any more capital improvements, no more fixing buildings or any of that stuff, or, additional resources needed, because we will have a better handle on that stuff, and that will be taken on here exclusively. So we're also doing our own things to make sure we tighten this up so it doesn't happen again. Because at the end of the day, I'm the mayor of the city of Everett, and at any time the city looks bad, it only reflects on my face, no one else's, as we all know.
And that's fine. And I said that evening there was 2 issues, and I'm sure you remember, I said there was a short-term issue and a long-term
Right.
issue. We addressed the short-term, and now I was hoping to start to talk about
Right.
how to address the long-term,
And we are doing that now.
which
We are
is the
doing
steps
now.
that you guys
I don't like
laid
the
out.
letter that was sent this evening to you.
sorry?
But I
You
do
don't
not like the letter. I just actually talked to the assistant superintendent about the letter. I don't like that letter. I think that was wrong. And I will speak with the superintendent myself, with him, regarding that letter. I just find it disappointing for everything I've done. I find it a little disappointing, but it was told to us that the $500,000 would fulfill, would prevent any layoffs. Layoff from if the person is sweeping the building to the person who's in charge of the building. Would prevent any layoffs, and that's why I'm doing this tonight. I'm asking you to look at it tonight, and
That's the next question.
it-
We'll look at it on number 3.
yeah, we'll get number 3.
I'm just going to ask one brief.
Just lump them all together.
One other
Absolutely.
part of
I'm
that.
trying to bang them out.
All
One
right.
other part of the plan that you laid out was the operational audit. I just have a couple of questions on that, but I want to yield the floor to my colleagues if they have questions.
Any
on
questions,
on
councilors,
anything.
on this side?
So the operational audit, Mr. Mayor, simple.
Yeah.
How much, where does the funds come from, and have we picked the company yet?
No, so right now, we've, and I think the doctor is in attendance, we have put together the task force. We've had 2 meetings now with the task force. Those meetings are going very well.
Now, these are the steps that we're talking about.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
And then the goal to put together the commission, school commission. I think the council and president and I are talking about, I think he has his members ready to go. I think Sergio, the city clerk, and the city solicitor are working out some, we're gonna have it done this week. So that group will meet hopefully in the next couple of weeks, hopefully soon, because the budget process is beginning. So, because the budget is due and it needs to be voted on by July 1, and the schools are working on the budget, Assistant Superintendent has provided the city auditor with a line-by-line itemized budget, I believe, today. Our plan is to give that budget to that group, the school commission group, which is made up of the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and the mayor and the school committee and the city council. So we can kind of go over that and then work that budget, we work together to have that budget presented to the city council as a whole. In the meantime, the commission that the group that we put together, will go over, maybe steps to make sure that this never happens again, which we will already do anyways. We'll hopefully have some information saying that, I still feel that we hired those teachers to fulfill the needs that we had in the school system. We had all these kids, and we didn't want these big classroom sizes, and we had all these kids with special needs. It could have been done better, but that's water under the bridge, right? My relationship with the schools has been always great, and I always support the kids and the teachers and the administrators, like I support you all. My goal is to keep the city a harmonious community.
Well, the two committees work hand in hand together.
They're gonna work
so
hand in hand
the
together.
Independent committee and the one made up of city council school committee.
I think the independent committee, they will just look at,
They're more of an advisory role?
more of an advisory role. They're not gonna tell us what to do. They're not gonna say, you gotta do this, but they're gonna point things out and say, you could, but going to the GIC may save you more money. That could be one of their requirements. We're not gonna do it, but, that
But
could be
that
one.
committee is very impressive, I have to tell you.
They're
I was
impressive.
blown away
They're
when I saw that
impressive,
list. It was
people. They really
very,
are.
you did a great job on that. You hit a home run on creating that committee and advisory committee. That was really, that evening was very impressive to see those names on there.
Thank you.
Kudos to you.
And we know that there's a lot of things, I mean, look at the article in the Sunday Globe regarding it, that was just written about Brockton and Weston,
I was
right?
just going to touch on that. I think that's something that we really need to take a look at. Brockton and Worcester has joined efforts on that, and I think the city of Everett should be hopefully following in line very shortly.
Well, no one wants to sue the governor.
You don't, but you have to at times take serious
No, we will, we
action
will,
and let them know that we're serious about
Right.
the formula, because if he doesn't want to understand it, we need to kind of force it upon them.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
we've
that's what
taken great
Brockton-
hits in the school. The school department's taken great hits in the budget.
Right.
From direct certifications to the amount of low-income children that live in the community, amount of children who have special needs. There's no point, we're not pointing any fingers. That whole month was a travesty for the city of Everett. It really should have never been handled that way, and I apologize if I had anything to do with that. That won't happen again. And the superintendent, he himself knows that won't happen again. Again, this letter I don't like. That could have been handled differently, but whatever.
That's next.
That's
next
next.
item.
The operational audit,
The operation audit. So I'm gonna throw that over here to my CFO, and hopefully he gives you a good answer. I don't know where we are with that. Really hasn't been on my mind. It's more of the getting that group together, the city council and school committee and the administration. I think that's gonna be really, I think we can.
Trying to move
I
forward?
think we can operationally audit, but we do it all the time, right? We can say, all right, you're spending X amount of money here, why? I think,
picking it apart and going
there's,
line item
there's
by line item.
there's no missing money,
No, and I agree.
right?
That, absolutely.
So,
And that was what I was hoping to ask tonight was
Sure. So there were a couple of steps laid out, and I think first and foremost, the creation of that task force and then putting together the other school committee finance review. So in an effort to address this issue with the appropriate due diligence, to address it in a methodical way, rather than to simply run out and seek some firm, some outside organization to jump into the operational audit. The mayor thought, if we have these great volunteers on this task force, let's let them know what our plan is and let them offer us an objective opinion as to how to move forward. So as the mayor indicated, we've already had 2 meetings. They've been extremely productive. An operational audit was discussed at both meetings. And at the next meeting, bringing the school department in, and they want to start talking to individuals at the school department within the administration. So we're going to do this collectively. We're not just going to haphazardly jump into something just so that we can, check something off the list. We want to make sure whatever we do is methodical, is in the best interest for the city as a whole, long-term. So we are in the process of doing it, but it's not something that's going to immediately be jumped into. And we want to make sure that with these, as you indicated, and they are very impressive backgrounds on these individuals, to provide their guidance. to make sure that we're doing everything that we should be doing appropriately and we're not missing anything.
I thought the operational audit was a great idea because it doesn't, nobody's saying there's money missing, right? But it shows best practices. It shows, are we doing what we can to the best ability with what we have, right? That's what an operational audit would show us is, are we using our funds the best way we can? And I think that by doing an operational audit will show just that. And that helps us move forward for next year and the years in the future ahead.
But I think we, as a collective group, can also do that too. Saying if we're using monies correctly. But you're right. I mean, we're looking at doing some operational audits in some of our different departments in the city ourselves, just to get, at the end of the day, just to give us a third-party impartial.
And that's what an operational audit does,
yeah.
exactly. It's a third-party impartial view of what we're
Well,
doing.
we already know.
And are we at best use of practices? That's why I asked if we were gonna move forward, but we feel as though we can do it in-house for a little while and then go.
I don't think, that's not, I think right now my focus was the school budget, the city budget and school budget is due in 90 days. And in these next 90 days, I want to really work with that, both of the advisory group and the school financial commission, Financial Review Commission, to really just get a real sound budget and to really understand, line item by line item, you know, what our needs are in the city. And if we have to, you know, which I believe we're gonna have to anyways, go above net school spending and provide more resources, we're gonna have to. And then if we find out, you know, during this whole process, you know, we'll all find out and understand what cuts the state made that are affecting us, and how we try to advocate for change and for policy
At the
changes and
state
stuff
level.
like that, right?
We're gonna have to.
And I agree, and I think that's why that lawsuit, as you alluded to, and that I had looked at, Mayor Carpenter down in Brockton had a
Yeah.
great idea, and I had been following that for a little while to see where he was going, and I know Mayor Petty just jumped on in Worcester. I think they're not going after the governor, but they're saying there's spots where there should be additional funding coming in, and there should be line items that should be reviewed again, and if, you know,
They make a very, very plausible argument.
yeah,
Very, very, yeah.
right, and
It's totally, it's unfair.
and that's why I was actually putting that on the calendar for Monday night.
Good.
To discuss that as well in the future.
Good.
Council, so.
I'm going to yield the floor to my colleagues. Thank you for
does
your time this
anyone
evening.
on- Any other councils have questions on this? Steps, Councilman Napolitano.
Thank you. You know, and again, we've been trying to support that as well. You know, that's why we requested about a month ago that we form a delegation. I know the governor is willing to
Right.
sit down and talk with us. I've been talking with yourself, I've been talking with the chief of staff. You know, he's receptive to talk to us. We should get in there and tell our story again. You know, we were told that there's no extra money, yet Revere got money. So we know that that's not 100% correct. There's ways they can affect this. And the thing is, the one thing we don't ever really want to get into is where the public perceives that we're balancing class size versus repairing a street. Both are equally important. Our kids have the highest likelihood of falling through the cracks in the type of community and the type of the type of income levels in the city. And the fact that we've got things like such a large number of kids, you know, on the honor society, number of kids going to college, going to military service. You know, we've got kids that are breaking through the restraints and the problems that could potentially hammer a community like Everett. And this is where us, as being long-term residents, really need to tell that story again and make sure the governor understands that we're not Brookline, we're not Linfield, we're not Worcester, you know, heck, we're not even Brockton.
Right.
The bottom line is that we have to be concerned with how our kids are being protected. We produce a very high level of education, considering the type of community that we are. We're not looking to take that step back, and I know you're not looking to hamstring those kids, because the bottom line is investing in our kids is just as important as investing in our streets,
Absolutely.
our parks, and that's something that I think collectively we can sit down before the governor and again tell our story again, because eventually we're going to get somewhere. It may take. People asked me years ago why it took so long to get the bicameral system changed. It's because we just kept banging away, and eventually enough people understood what we were trying to do that it went in the other direction. But I remember when I first came up here, my first month on the city council, as being an advocate for that, it make me a very popular person, you know.
Right.
And it's the same thing. We just got to keep going at this.
Even bones hurt when they grow.
Counselor,
Thank you.
that wasn't one of the steps either. Wait a minute.
At the end of the day, we are the best bang for your buck.
Oh, by far.
Everett definitely is the best bang for your buck.
I have to say,
I compare it to any other community.
the school systems here compared
Schools,
to anywhere
the parks,
else,
the city, the police, the
you
fire.
get the best bands around.
Public Works guys.
You get the best football teams around. You get a.
But no, everything. It's everything. It's not just the schools. It's everything.
Everything.
It's the city too. It's everything.
We're moving in the right direction.
moving in the right
We have
direction.
to move as one, though.
Absolutely.
That's
agree.
what we should be saying. Councilman
Chairman?
McLaughlin.
I'm going to make a motion that we give this 60 days to see how things.
You want June 1st again? We'll bring it back?
We'll bring it back up on June 1st. so
The
that-
meeting, well, I'll say the first meeting.
The first meeting in June, so that we can see how things transpire with the committee that Council President Paultano is going to put some members on and others.
Motion made and seconded to have this item back before us in the first meeting in June. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read the third.
Item number 3, Mr. Chairman, is an order offered by Councilor Peter A. Napolitano as president, an appropriation to transfer $500,000 from the General Stabilization Fund into the school department budget, per the request of the school department. Invited the mayor, president, Mr. Forrester, and CFO Demas.
I have, actually, I'm going to read that letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can read that letter. I don't want to read that letter. You can read it. Sugar-free? Thank you.
You're welcome. This is a letter drafted by Superintendent Forrester. It says, "Dear Mr. McKinnon, this letter is in response to your request to the letter by Mayor DiMaria dated March 12, 2018. I want to make it perfectly clear, the school department and the administration of the Everett Public Schools did not request this $500,000. The mayor proposed this transfer of $500,000 due to the backlash that was caused when there was a very real threat of our students not being able to participate in various competitions. This concern arose as a result of the announcement made by the mayor at the Common Council meeting of February 12, 2018, that he was banning all out-of-state travel for the school department effective immediately. If that happened, our STEM team was not going to be able to compete in the national championships in New York. Our percussion ensemble and chorus were not going to be able to compete in the New England Championships. Our award-winning band was in danger of not being able to represent the state of Massachusetts in the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C. These finances will guarantee the participation of our students. Also, it will enable the extra support of our programs in place for our students. These support programs have enabled all schools in the city of Everett to be labeled by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as Level 1 or 2 schools, which is a testament to the people who work tirelessly every day to achieve this despite of our demographics. Sincerely yours, Frederick F. Forrester, Superintendent of Schools.
Mr. Mayor, you want to reply to this? What I asked them for was a letter of explanation of what the monies were going to be utilized for, because their meeting tonight is occurring at the same time this meeting is, and they were not able to attend, and we were not able to shift it to another date, so they sent this as a response, so that everyone knows. I spoke to them, kind of in depth on the phone as well, and they said basically it was for the out-of-school travel for STEM, out-of-state travel for STEM, out-of-state travel to Washington, D.C., and then the band, I guess it has something locally as well in Massachusetts as well, so.
So my question would be, they can all go out of state.
Sure.
Do they not need the $500,000? I will relinquish that statement, and I will still leave it only on, like I thought, like what I intended it for, was for any teacher, administrator, anyone going out seeking,
I just wanted you to reiterate, because we
Right.
were on question 2,
yeah,
now it's
right,
question
right,
3
right.
with
So
this.
that was not intended to stop kids from going to DC or wherever it may be. So if they don't need the 500,000, I still want the kids, the hold on going away was, going out of state was not on the children.
Sure.
So they need to come up and answer that question. I was told that to make them full, to be able to provide all the promises that are made to the kids regarding accepting the invitation to go down to DC and perform in the Memorial Day Parade, which is an honor. Doesn't have to happen. Okay, it's an honor. A lot of schools probably are unable to go down there. Okay, the city is saying, we want you to go down, even if it's the cost of $80,000 or $400,000, whatever the cost may be. Okay, a lot of communities, kids have to fundraise to go and do these things. You know, we're not even asking them to do that. I think we're being very generous here. I think this administration's been very generous, and you have been very generous in approving my requests. So I'm going to leave it there. I put that on the calendar so that all these needs will be made. So if they have the funds elsewhere, I'm saying they should go.
Thank you for that. Councilman Napolitano.
Thank you. If I remember the original order, and I think it only came from your office, it was intended to make sure that they had enough money to be able to get through to the end of the year with no layoffs. Is that my understanding?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the goal was to make sure that no teacher or no employee that was hired to fulfill the needs of the instructional needs of the children were met.
And in that respect, I think that we should take this as a gesture as it's intended to be. Yes, I understand the tone of the letter, but I don't think that the letter is going to determine whether or not we give the money or don't give the money.
I agree.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I agree. I was not able to participate in the meeting about the $5 million because my own sons are custodians at the Whittier School, and the meeting did get at a level that we hadn't seen in
decades.
Over a decade. We need to move in the right direction.
Correct.
I think this money is a good gesture on your behalf. You've clarified what your intent was by the travel. I don't think you have anything more to really answer to on that. I can see how a general statement can be taken into a different extreme. I don't believe that was your intention, and you've stated that. So I think that rather than beat this now to death, which we could potentially do, I'm sitting here as a non-voting member here, but let's move forward. Let's take the steps we need to take to move in a more positive, more constructive direction and not make more of this. I would ask my colleagues to motion for favorable action, send it back to the council, and go from there. Because the school committee cannot come up here and discuss this while we're here. If they did not request it, and this is gesture on your behalf, they don't need to be here. And I think I think what you're doing is the right thing here, and I fully support it. And I'll support that on the floor at our next meeting. But it's up to this committee to make their motions, and I'm just talking in a general term. I think we need to move ahead if we're going to work together.
Agreed.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I respect Council Napolitano's sentiments, although I disagree with them. With that being said, Mr. Mayor, if the school department isn't requesting the $500,000, then where did it come from? Did you just decide? I mean, where did the number come from, and how was it broken down? If they're not requesting this money, where did it generate from, and how did we get to the point of $500,000 versus $600,000 or any other number that's out there?
Yeah, it was all due to the amount of money they needed to fill their budget gap that they had after they were able to use some of their own money in their revolving accounts, and then the monies we gave them. They were hoping to get some sort of concessions from the unions and stuff for furloughs and that type of. That didn't work out well. It wasn't working out well from what I was getting feedback from some of the teachers and the teachers union, and I really didn't think they should take it anyway. So this $500,000 was agreed upon with the, I believe, Kevin, were we in a meeting with the school administrators?
Yes.
And the number was $500,000 that would meet all their educational needs for the fiscal year?
From Mr. Obremski, yes.
From Mr. Obremski. So,
This is a total package number?
Did we take out
For
the Cavarian School tot lot improvement separate from the $5 million?
that's separate from the $5 million.
So at this point now, we've given $5.9 million, if we approve this tonight, because we took the $400,000 out of the $5 million. We're at $5,400,000 and now $500,000. So when I proposed a 1/5 budget at $6 million the night of the meeting, and my colleagues chose not to support it, probably was the right avenue, because we would have been able to go month by month and be able to check balances and being able.
You know, at the end of the day, we would have given the whole amount anyway, so. I was just trying, in the essence of not wasting time, get it done quick.
But the 1/5 budget would have worked. And then I proposed that we had them come back to explain to us where they were going and what steps they were taking, like we just did tonight on the city side. My colleagues chose not to support that measure either. So I'm just trying to figure out, so we're at $5.9 million when all is said and done, if this $500,000 is approved, that we've allocated to the school department. Is that a fair statement?
Well, the schools will say that the $400,000 for the tot lot was not theirs expense, it was ours.
Yep, and I agree, and I'm not looking to split
I don't want to argue
hairs.
that at all.
I agree,
Exactly,
Mr.
split hairs with
Absolutely.
something stupid like
At
that.
the end of the day, everybody in
then we
this
improve
room
the property
wants to
and-
support the children of our
Correct,
city
correct.
and wants to improve the buildings, because if you don't maintain the buildings that are built year after year, they're just going to become run down
But you
and
remember
and
too,
old.
the more you spend, the more you make it unaffordable to live here too. So all those kids that get all these great resources who are paying high rents or high mortgages, eventually won't be able to receive those benefits if we.
Right. I just wanted to ask that question,
please.
was it the 5.9 million was actually the accurate number when all is said and done that we've now allocated to the school department? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Took
At the end of the day,
responsibility for the Cavarian School tot lot and separated that out of the 5 million. My only last question is, have they shown a breakdown of what these 3 trips were going to cost individually?
I have not seen it. Have you?
No, I have not.
Okay, and I'm sure if we ask Mr. Obremski tomorrow,
Sure they'll have it.
he'll be more than
Yeah.
happy to provide those to us. I just was wondering if you have seen those 3.
The school administrators would like to put this behind them. I just don't understand where this letter had come out from.
To me as well, I agree. I'm
I
confused
would
by
rather
it as
have
well.
not seen this letter today.
Because I thought originally coming in here tonight, I thought that the mayor and the superintendent had come up with this agreement together.
Right, that's what I thought.
And was on the same page. And then I wake up this morning and there's an email at some point that shows this letter. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, wait a minute,
Right.
the superintendent's not requesting this, then how did we even get here? Where did we come from? So that's why I'm confused about how this even appeared on our desk tonight. Sure, the mayor didn't just have lunch.
How
one
it
day
appeared
to
on
guess
your
that.
desk tonight? I'll answer that. Because we requested them to write a letter to explain why they weren't going to be here.
No, the original, no,
That's-
I understand that.
that's
The
why.
original sum
Yeah.
of money is what I'm asking, I'm sure the mayor
Absolutely.
didn't just come up with that one day at lunch, the $500,000.
Oh, no.
If
That's-
they didn't request it, then where did it come from? That
Absolutely.
was my only question on it. Thank you.
Councilman Simonelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you for Councilman Simonelli. This is a statement. The superintendent is putting the mayor and the city council on the spot. This is not our problem. We all thought the $5 million would have covered enough, and that should be enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So
Anything
rather than
additional?
relive, the past.
How do we move forward? That's what we want to do.
Moving forward is basically, I believe, told to me by the business manager of the school department, that was told to us in a meeting, that this amount of money would prevent them from having to do any furloughs, have to lay anybody off. It would fulfill the entire needs for everybody that was given a job in the school department. And this would also include the monies for the trips.
For the trips for the children.
Yeah, the monies for the trips for the kids do not add up to $500,000.
Yeah, no, there's not.
So,
And the
So.
last question that I have.
Hold on a second, Counsel.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, so I think it was maybe a little theater that was going on to maybe, the call we got was that the kids were asked from all these groups to come to city council, school committee meeting Monday night and came to us from a lot of people in the schools. This embarrassed me again, which, as you all know, I have
Thick skin,
I have
we'll
thick
say.
skin and
Yeah.
big shoulders.
Been around for a little bit.
Been around for a long time. I love and respect the school department.
They do a great job. We
And
gotta
I
give
just
them that.
want to get this over with, work on next year's budget, and make sure the kids get all what they need for this year. And
So,
then on June, when we
with this-
graduate, the 400, 500 kids,
Yeah.
the members of the city council and the school committee, the mayor and the school superintendent, they have a great day, putting all these kids up and getting a great education, wherever they're going. So I know how you feel, how we all feel about certain different things. Let's put all our feelings to the side. Let's send us favorably to the city council on next Monday's meeting. I would ask that the school don't even have to come.
They shouldn't.
Yeah,
It's your request.
You know, they did not come, we vote on this matter and just get it over with.
This is time sensitive as well, because I guess they're planning their trips and stuff like that, so we need to act upon it. We can't keep.
Well,
it
they
in.
can still go on their trips, but what happens is eventually, if they, once the schools still have $20 million to save,
Sure.
but that doesn't, that only gets them to a certain period of time. Then after that, they cannot spend anymore,
Okay.
so.
Two questions. One is,
Go ahead, Counselor.
we were told that there was no additional funds that could be allocated during that city council meeting because it would affect our bond rating.
Right.
We were at the ceiling at our bond rating
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Ask
We've
the
now
question, where are
allocated
we now?
900,000 additional dollars, 400 for the top lot at the Cavarian and 500,000 tonight.
I think we used that out of our own CIP stabilization fund.
We did.
So did it come out, okay.
It just
so-
came out of our.
So 500,000.
Monies that we put aside, remember the new account we created a few years back, the stabilization fund, we had about $1.6 million in it, whatever, it's 400,000 less.
Okay, so we're at 500,000 over the 5 million, so any monies we were told would
Yeah, it's still-
would
it's
affect
still
our
will.
bond rating because we were at the
Well, today's
ceiling.
good news, well, you know what the problem is, anytime you go out and you say things are well, everybody thinks we have a well full of money.
Yeah.
The Union included, all my friends in the unions, and all the city employees, and all the different departments. So you can't even say that you're doing good anymore, because when you say you're doing good, they.
Quick question, Mr. Mayor.
So does,
How
hold on
many
one
you-
second, Mr.
excuse
Chairman,
me.
hold on one second, I have the floor.
Will this affect the bond rate? This
Will it affect
500,000,
the
no,
bond
I mean, it shouldn't. Anything could affect the bond rating at any time. It depends on the bond. The bonding agencies do not like to see you transfer money from stabilization or free cash to offset operational needs. It's just not a practice they would like to see. It will not happen again. But they do not like to see that practice. I know one of the newspapers made reference to a couple of area mayors who are testifying on I'd like to know who those area mayors are by name. I always love to see, this person had made this claim. Yeah, what was that person's name that made that claim, right? But we never get names, because everyone's anonymous these days. And that's clearly BS.
So it will not affect the bond rating at the end of the day. That's all I want.
Well,
I just want to make sure that we're.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, we had some good news today. Things, things are looking good. DOR is very favorable towards the city of Everett because of all the good things we've done. From, creating different stabilization funds to OPEB funds, all the great things that we're doing. But they do not view using these funds, stabilization funds or free cash funds for operational needs. They do not like it. So if it's 5 million or 5.5 million, I would say it's the same thing.
Give it to me.
End of story. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Napolitano.
Actually, that answered my question. My main thing was whether this $500,000 was going to be a critical impact on our bond rating. You've made that point. 5 million or 5.5 million, it's the same thing,
Right.
correct?
Yeah,
So-
I'd rather use this $500,000 to begin my design of my stadium down at 7 Acre, but, I won't be using that $500,000 to do that. I'll have to find it somewhere else.
And again, I go right back to my original statement. I support the effort here to try to make us olive branch, to push us back into a different
All
direction.
city departments in one city,
That's right.
City of Everett, that's all it says.
Thank you.
Any other
Jim,
questions?
I'm going to make a motion for favorable action on the $500,000, and we refer it out of committee to the council on Monday evening. Favorable.
Motion made and seconded for favorable action
Can we do,
on this piece.
roll
We'll
call
do a
vote?
roll call, please.
Chairman McKinnon,
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin,
yes.
and Counselor Simonelli.
Yes.
3 yeas, 0 nays. You have ordered
sir.
to refer this to the city council.
Motion to adjourn?
I'd like to excuse
Excuse-
our guest with
Excuse
customary
customary
thanks.
thanks.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you need me here Monday night?
Yes,
You want me here Monday
26.
for this piece?
It will be on for the next piece?
Yeah, you need
So,
him.
yeah,
He wants to know if you need
yeah.
Oh, no.
Mr. Mayor.
We'll read the committee report, your testimony will be in it, we'll accept it, and then it will go
Okay.
from
And
there.
I think the three of us can speak fluently that we had this discussion tonight and answer some of the questions if there are any,
Okay.
under the direction of our council president.
Thank you.
Mr. Demus? Sure.
Absolutely. So then we're not going to adjourn,
We're
or
not going to adjourn. What we'll do is, we'll meet in the back to sign the warrants.
great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Thank you for appearing tonight. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn this evening's Ways and Means hearing.
Motion made and seconded. All those
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have adjourned.